Hello, welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Channel ATV. Our vision is to give people a voice through dedicated digital media broadcasting. For more latest and exclusive footage, please follow us on social media at Channel ATV or visit us on our website at www.channelatv.org. And now, stay tuned for our feature presentation.
Zambia, land of refuge and a home of peace. Many who need a place to go where they are free. Disagree and we may argue, hey, but we have never been at war. In spite of all that we have been through, we are still one Zambia, one nation under God.
My Zambia, my identity, this is who I am, it's who you are. My Zambia, my identity, this is who I am, it's who you are. God has blessed us for a reason. Yeah, all we have is not for show. No, no, we must never take for granted all this peace we know. It's all by the grace of God, yeah. Take a look at other places. Oh, all they know is fighting, war and destruction. In spite of all that we are going through, we are still one Zambia, one nation under God. My Zambia, my identity, this is who I am, it's who you are. My Zambia, my identity, this is who I am, it's who you are.
Beacon of light among many nations, we are blessed to be a blessing to all. This is our home, a city of refuge. Let's be proud of who we are and love our land. My Zambia, arise and shine, for your light has come, and the glory of Jehovah is upon you. My Zambia, arise and shine, for your light has come, for the glory of Almighty is upon you.
My Zambia, my identity, this is who I am.
This is who I am.
It's who you are.
It's who you are.
My Zambia, my identity.
twashane, twishimane, ishimane.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, family, wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in from. It's a happy day for us. We just had our Thanksgiving, so today is very exciting. I want to introduce myself. My name is Jimmy Katuta. I am a Zambian national based in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've had the privilege to serve with many, many leaders in the diaspora. One of them being our guest that I'm about to bring on. But before I do that, I just want to give you a little introduction about myself. Like I said, my name is Jimmy Katuta. I have an 18-year-old son. I'm married, and I have an 18-year-old son named Malaika, who I'm very proud of. He's a good kid, very, very supportive. I am the founder of JK and Partners USA. Essentially, what JK and Partners USA is, it's a community development network, rather, that is dedicated to elevating standards of living in Africa, as well as the United States. So we're very happy to be part of that project. We help a lot of people in Zambia, especially the small entrepreneurs, what we call the SMEs. We help them with equipment financing and so many other things. But today is not about me. Today, I want to introduce you to a very, very special man. By the way, one of my qualifications, or rather, one of my the things that I'm proud of here is that I was recently named chapter chair for the Nevada chapter of ADDI, which stands for African Diaspora Development Institute, a position that I'm proud to serve, and Dr. Arikana Chihombo-Rikwao, who is our leader and founder. So moving on, this gentleman that I'm about to bring on, you know, in life, sometimes you come across people that just leave an impression on you that makes you want to follow them. I met this gentleman. His name is Noah Ndhlovu. He's a man, a family man, a community servant who lives in Indiana. And the things that he has done in the short time that I've known him for probably about 3 years now. And how I came to know him is actually interesting, because I was introduced to Brother Noah by a friend of mine, Mwangu Siwiti, who's also another leader in our community here in the diaspora. And how he introduced me to Noah was that he told me about, he said, have you heard about this young man? His name is Noah Ndhlovu, and he has created an organization called ZANUS. And I said, no, what's that about? And he said, ZANUS, which stands for Zambian Association Network of the United States, is an organization of all leaders, all community leaders in Zambia, where they come to share ideas and exchange ideas and develop ways to serve our community better. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So I reached out to Noah, who's a very busy man, but he was kind enough to take my call. And we had a short conversation. And in that conversation, I discovered a lot about this man. And he and I have stayed connected for a while since that time. And like I said, he introduced me to ZANUS. He's the reason I joined ZANUS, an organization which I'm proud to serve as Secretary General under our President, Mr. Fred Kazembe. Another just wise gentleman, very strong willpower, just amazing servant of the people, among other leaders that I respect, like Siddiq Gelu. So, but I want to bring Noah on just to say a few words so you can get to meet the man behind the scenes, This is a man who has changed many lives, but he stays behind the scenes, because that's what most leaders do. The true leaders, they try to stay behind the scenes, because humility is what gives us that authority. So, Brother Noah, my brother, I can't praise you enough. Just so happy to share this day with you. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm very excited to be connected, chatting with you. This is a great opportunity, especially that we just had our Thanksgiving dinner yesterday. So good time to connect.
Yes, sir. Yes, and I must also add that we are live here, and we are brought to you by courtesy of ATV, which is an organization that is run by our brother, another explosive brother, our brother Davis Chira. He's the one that's making this possible. So we're grateful to Channel ATV for making this possible. Brother Noah, so without taking too much time, I had a few questions that I wanted to ask you, and I just thought that we should start with your inspiration, because to be dedicated the way you are to your people, you must have a foundation that started this whole process. So what is your inspiration? What inspires you to do what you do today?
Yeah, so thank you again, Mr. Jimmy, for having me on this special program. What inspires me to do what I do is the desire to make a difference and to add value in people's lives. Because I came to this country a while, it's been almost 20 years now. So I have had this opportunity to go to school and to improve myself. So I always take the opportunity to reach out and lift those who are left behind by imparting information, because I think it was sort of destined. My name, Noah, the one who is going to gather up the animals, bring them close, because
yes.
So I think I live up to my name. I try to be that person who is the brother's keeper. So when you look at what I have been able to do in the community, I think the writing is on the wall. I have been the person who, not always in the forefront, but I always try to uplift people. So my inspiration, of course, comes from people like Nelson Mandela, people who have had the mindset or the lifestyle to sacrifice their time, their energy, their lives for the betterment of the community. I think that's basically what I've done, just to uplift not only the people here in the United States, but I think people back home and other African countries. So I'm always excited just to change people's lives. I'm always excited just to add value to people. So I'm just one of those who just wants to make people happy.
Yes, and you do a wonderful job at it. I can't speak for a lot of people, but you certainly make me happy just listening to you and your wisdom. It's so inspiring for a man to be so young. You're full of wisdom. So thank you for that. You mentioned Nelson Mandela. You know, Nelson Mandela and Kenneth Kaunda. Those are two of some of my favorite leaders that are inspired me as well. What is your definition of a good leader in your own words?
Mm-hmm. I think a good leader is not necessarily about the position. I think a good leader is one who sees, who has a vision for the future. Mm-hmm. Somebody who can chart the course of where they are, where they want to be and how they're going to get there. So if you look at some of the projects that I've been involved in, I was able to outline the way that I'm looking for is running away from me. So I was able to run out the process map.
Right.
You have to be able to visualize what. It's not only that you have to see something to believe it, you have to believe it, then you can see it. So my definition of leadership is a person who is understanding, a person who has the heart to make a difference. So leadership traits, in this case, you are looking for somebody who has a vision, somebody who has the intelligence, somebody who has the understanding, and somebody who is just not going to put themselves. It's not about taking pictures to show to others that, hey, I'm doing this. No, it's about leading the people with a plan and leading people with the right information. So that's basically what I would say when I look at who is a leader. A leader is somebody who looks at other people with the right intention and who wants to render a helping hand, so that at least you can make an improvement. So when you look at people who have sacrificed their time for the benefit of other people, is they do that not necessarily that they want to be praised. They do that because it's the right thing to do. So when you look at who is my brother's keeper, I look at everybody else that they are my brothers and my sisters. So based upon that, I have developed this mindset that as a leader, I have to be in a position to improve people's lives. When I meet people, I always want to make sure that at least I do the very best that I can to provide them information, because most people in my community up here, especially in Indiana, I have been a consultant on a number of topics, because people usually reach out, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? So when you're adding value to people's lives, it's just those small things where you're able to pick up the phone, check on this person, and things like that. So a leader has to have time. You can never be a leader if you don't have time to work with with others. A leader has to have the mindset of not only adding value, but at least a person who has to have that visionary mindset, and also a person who has that empathy. Because you have to, people go through all kinds of challenges, especially in this country. So as a leader, you just have to have all kinds of skills, all kinds of traits. But at the end of it all, you have to be somebody who just has the time and the energy to collaborate and work with other people.
And it's interesting that you should say, I believe the word you were looking for was roadmap.
Exactly.
Yes. And it's, you see, I have this conversation with some of my peers all the time, and people tend to think that leadership is a senior position where you are the boss. And I try to and it's funny because our brother Davis and I have had this conversation many times, where we say leadership is actually, you are the servant, you report to your people, not the other way around. So it takes true leaders to understand the humility that comes with that position, because those of us that have been chosen for whatever reason to be leaders or to have these leadership roles are chosen because somebody somewhere saw that there was enough wisdom in us to be able to lead our communities into a more positive direction. So you, my brother, are one of those people that is a leader. In my definition, a leader is, like you said, and I echo you, somebody, number one, who listens more than they speak, and who is empathic to the community they serve. So this is very, very interesting. So I'm so glad that you're sharing this with us. So I know you are the founder of ZANUS, which is an organization that, as you know, is flourishing. We had an amazing event in Las Vegas here, which unfortunately you missed, but you were awarded an award. And congratulations for that, by the way.
Thank you.
Leadership, yes, and we were grateful that I look at those videos sometimes and I imagine, wow, this man started this organization, and look at us, we were all nicely dressed. It was very, very encouraging and made us very proud. What other organizations have you formed other than ZANUS that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, so thank you for that. I appreciate the award, and unfortunately I wasn't able to travel, but I am the founding president for the Zambian Association here in Indiana.
Okay.
And also I am the founding president, founding chairperson for Zamaritan, which is a derivative of Zambia and Samaritan, and of course ZANUS. So ZANUS was actually formed as a think tank for the leadership, because I had a 3-step process. So the first step was to do something local up here in Indiana. So I founded the Zambian Association of Indiana, and then when it worked, became a flourishing organization, I stepped it up and pushed myself to form the Zambian Association Network of the United States, the platform where we met. So again, the purpose for that was to bring the leadership across the United States to be on the same platform, so that we could share ideas, and for the group to serve as a think tank. And so the next step that actually is pending is to do now an international organization. So like I say, I had three-step process. Do the local, which is the Indiana one, and then do the national, which is the ZANUS, and then now do the international one, which is actually it's been sitting on paper for some time, and I'm very happy that I met a gentleman whom I'm collaborating on the podcast, and we seem to have a lot in common, and now we'll be stepping up from ZAIN to ZANUS, and now to the international platform, where we'll be working with other African countries to create an organization that is going to add value in terms of how do we as African people, especially based here in the United States, and not only in the United States, but also in across there in the diaspora, how do we position ourselves to be in a position to work and compete for the resources that are out there. This is why I'm very, very excited with the ADDI mission, because I believe Dr. Arikana has a very, very good initiative, and it's something that should be appreciated, in something that has to be encouraged by all well-meaning Africans, because in order for us to advance as a people, we need to tackle this project of emancipating our mind from different angles. Because you see, one of the challenges I think that we have in Zambia, we have most people always say, hey, boma itioneko. People always think the government has a solution to all the problems. But in order for us to better position ourselves to compete like other racial groups, we have to be in a position where we are looking at the problem from all angles. So Dr. Arikana is looking at the position, the African challenges from one angle, and of course there has to be other angles, so that at least it's more like a pizza which has different pieces. So I'm hoping to add value in terms of emancipating our people on the world stage. So that's the other project that is pending. But other than that, at least we are steadily making progress in that direction.
Wonderful, wonderful. You know, I meant to ask you, and I'm gonna put you on a spot here for a second. I know you don't like that, but I know when you were transitioning from ZANUS, you and I had several conversations. Some I'm gonna leave out of this, but I asked you why you were leaving, and I wasn't completely satisfied with the answer you gave me, but I didn't want to push because I understand that, you know, like professional athletes, one day you just wake up and you're like, I just can't do this anymore. Why did you not continue your leadership in ZANUS? Because I remember everybody wanted you to stay, but yet you still insisted on leaving. Why did you do that?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. Actually, a lot of people voted for me to continue as the president, but I felt it necessary to give room and chance, which is actually what I believe that I have practiced servant leadership. I have been able to bring people who were not, people had no knowledge about some of these leaders, but I was able to groom people, bring them up to the forefront. So recently, of course, President Hakainde Hichilema was, of course, in the country. I myself, as the founding president of the group, I could have been the one who was there in Washington, D.C., but it's because I don't believe the organization was founded to uplift myself as a person. I decided to step aside to give room to other young upcoming leaders. So I know most people were disappointed that I actually had to step aside from the organization that I founded. But at the end of the day, for me, I felt that my role and my contribution to ZANUS, founding the group, bringing all the leadership onto the platform, I felt I had completed my task, and it was up to the others to take over and move the organization into a different direction and to higher heights. So I felt I had done my part, because you always have to leave when people are still clapping. Unlike when people have got this leadership fatigue where they feel like, hey, Noah has overstayed, we need Noah to go. So I just felt the timing was actually right. Because let me just make one point here. One of the things that I was very skillful to do is that as a leader, you always have to have an exit strategy. A good leader knows when to leave. So I felt the need, like, hey, I think I have created these platforms and now it's time to bring in other people. So I just felt that the time was right, and I wanted to just empower the new leadership that we have seen. So it was not just about me, it was about collectively, how can we better our communities in the country by not only limiting the organization to be synonymous with my image or myself. I was able to walk away from the group, and the group was still able to flourish, was still able to, to continue. I look at that as a badge of honor, in the sense that people are able to either meet the president, people are able to dance in Las Vegas, and me, even not being in the picture or being in the background, the group is flourishing. Because in the words of Miles Monroe, if the group fails to continue when the leader steps aside, which means the leader failed the group. I stepped aside, the group still continues. I look at myself, I'm just one of those lucky people who has had the opportunity to save the community. One last thing is that ZANUS and these other platforms were founded to better the communities across the country. So I felt the need to walk away when people were still clapping. at least people can add value, just like I added my 2 cents. So I believe it's up to the new leadership to do what they have to do. And I'm very thankful that at least I was just able to work with the hardworking men and women who propelled this group. Because in as much as I may have had the ideas to create the group, it took a collective effort. It took a lot of leaders, a lot of people coming together to buy into the vision to propel this group. So I'm just a humbled man.
You know, it's funny because the group ZANUS has done so well. I am particularly proud to be part of it because when we all gathered here in Las Vegas, one of the things that we were really discussing while we came together was the erection of community development centers across the country. That has been a dream of mine. So to see that someone finally was able to put it on the agenda to where we can talk about it, because it is something that nobody really wants to talk about because it just takes too many moving parts to make it come to fruition. So the fact that you created the platform that enabled us to come together. Now, I was talking to Bella not too long ago, and we have found some sponsors that are willing to help us with the community centers. So kudos to you for that. Yes.
Great.
Yes. So you created ZANUS, and then the podcast. I've heard you mention the podcast, and I don't know enough about it. What can you tell us? What can you tell me about the podcast? What is the objective behind it? What's the mission?
Yeah, so again, thank you for that question. So after I transitioned from ZANUS, I put myself to work to build another empire, just like I succeeded in ZAIN and ZANUS. Now I say, hey, let me try to see if I can create this media, because the podcast falls under a company called Premier Media, and we are on the air every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And the mission behind the podcast and the online radio show is to bring to the consciousness or to alert our African brothers and sisters of information that is happening not only back home, but it's happening here in the United States. So we have Africa in mind in terms of sensitizing, educating, and informing our people of just happenings around the country. I started off on the radio from Zambia Blog Talk Radio, which is, of course, I give credit to Pastor Nathan Kama and Roger Charlie. Those are my icons when it comes to the podcast world, because that's where I started out. So they are focusing, I think, mostly in what's happening in Zambia, on the political landscape. But our focus on the podcast is to highlight Zambians in the United States and Africans in general who are doing meaningful things and bringing them onto our podcast just to share their wisdom and just to see how they can add value to people's lives. So we are on every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's what we are doing now. That's what is keeping me busy.
That's wonderful. So you say it's basically designed to highlight people that are doing tremendous things in the diaspora. How come I haven't been invited to that? I guess I'm not doing it yet. Huh?
Oh no, yeah, you are part of the project. Yeah, the secretary, we are working out. In fact, we've been on the air this coming March.
Yes,
we'll be celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and you were actually one of the speakers that we are going to reach out. So at least it's good that at least we are putting it out there. This is November, trying to alert you ahead of time that we are expecting to see you at our anniversary celebration here in Indiana sometime in March next year, because we appreciate you what you're doing, JK and partners, for our community.
Well, thank you. I was actually just kidding. You don't have to invite me.
Well, the invitation it's already coming. It's already coming. It was
Thank you.
pre-planned.
Thank you, sir. It's an amazing opportunity just to sit here and talk with you. I know we don't have a lot of time. I wish we could. I know you mentioned Zamaritan. Do you want to add a little more about Zamaritan? Because you did mention why you created it, right?
Yeah, so Zamaritan is a not-for-profit organization. This is where we are helping to change lives in Zambia by mobilizing volunteers. So Zamaritan is a derivative of Zambia and Samaritan. So our focus is on education and sexual health, because there are a lot of challenges, especially people in the rural areas. They are having all kinds of challenges because there are children who come from families where if parents end up passing, you find that some kids don't end up going to post-high school education. So Zamaritan was founded under the premise that if kids could volunteer whilst they are doing their studies, then they will earn a scholarship, which they can in turn use to finance their post-high school education. So we have a website. We encourage people to check out zamaritan.org and find out more information about that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Before we go, I wanted to also just delve into your books. I know you're a published author, a good one at that. I haven't had the opportunity to read your books. I'm waiting for them to be on audio so I can listen to them in my car. What can you tell us about your books? How many books have you written so far?
Yes, thus far I have 2 books out there. There's actually one coming out in February, which is just 3 months from now. So I have 2 poetry books. The first one was a collection of poems centered under the Christian theme. So the first one came out in 2019. And then the second one came out this last June. It's called Voices of Noah. The first one is Psalms of Noah. The second one is Voices of Noah. It's an anthology of poems that I've done over time. And then the next set of poems coming out in the month of love in February, it's a collection of love and romance poems. So I have had this manuscript done for quite some time, and I'm just happy that at least I'm putting them out there. And the good thing is these books, they are available wherever you buy. I mean, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. So, and also people can go to my website and they'll be able to check out the books from there.
Thank you, President Noah Ndhlovu, my fellow community leader, my brother. I'm so grateful for you allowing me to be the one to talk to you, because you're always on the other side. And just to the viewers, this is my first interview, so forgive me if I didn't do it the way it's supposed to be done. But
you did a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just for you allowing me this opportunity to be the one asking these questions. I know there are many people you could have asked for to speak, so it's a privilege, and I take it seriously. Lastly, but not least, I want to just ask you, success. What does success mean to you, Brother Noah?
Success is finding something that you love to do and finding people to pay you to do what you love to do.
Wow.
So, for instance, when we look at these athletes or musicians, they have found something to do and the fans finance their lifestyle. So I look at success, of course, this may not be applicable for most people, but success in simple terms is identifying something that you love to do and then following through to the end. So for instance, when I look at myself as a community leader, I have succeeded, I think, beyond every, even unreasonable imagination, in the sense that I founded the groups and the groups have been passed on and they're still flourishing. Because
Yes.
I think when we look at some of the presidents across the country, one of the challenges that they have is that they've been stuck in those positions and they have not been able to find someone to take over. But I realized from an early stage that I needed to groom people, put them into those positions. So I define success as following through to the end until you leave others to continue what you're doing. So I'm just very fortunate that I've succeeded as
Yeah.
a community leader in that regard. And also now I am enjoying myself on the podcast where we are sharing words of wisdom every Wednesday. And now I'm transitioning into writing books full time. So I just consider myself as very fortunate and lucky that at least people may not talk to me directly, but at least I'm just happy that people are still embracing with both hands my initiatives, and just makes me feel very successful.
Thank you. Thank you. You are indeed very successful. And I don't even want to touch on the fact that you are pursuing your PhD now. We'll leave that for another segment. But I would like you to do me a favor, given that you're a writer. Frank Kasonde, a young man who both you and I know, who's doing this movie on Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. I'm thinking that what is your take on this movie? Because this movie entitled The Struggle, which is going to depict the life of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, our first president, and also just the struggles that Zambia went through. What kind of advice would you give him to make sure that this movie is done right and depicts our history in a proper manner? What advice would you give him if he was listening right now?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have had an opportunity to collaborate with Frank Kasonde, and he is very passionate. He's very passionate about the process, and just the fact that I know his intention was to have the movie secure the funds before, unfortunately, the passing of our beloved KK. Yeah. But he has to persevere. Things that are worth doing, sometimes they may not work within our stipulated time frame, but at least he just has to continue knocking on different doors. And I'm especially happy with the new government that we have now. I'm sure putting the life of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda onto the screen, it's a task that should involve the buying in from the government. Because when we are talking about the life of Kaunda, we are talking about the founding president of the country. So it's a very, very huge task. And I know sometimes, I'm sure Frank gets discouraged. But I would just encourage him to continue knocking on different doors. And very soon, I'm sure he'll be able to land himself on the right door, and of course he will knock and they will open, and they, of course, hopefully they'll be able to produce the check that he's been after. So I just want to encourage him to continue doing what you're doing, Frank. We are with you, and hopefully looking forward to collaborate and see how we can help to tell the story of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, because it's the history of Zambia. It's a very huge task that you have, but just keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe one day he and I talk nearly every day. Maybe one day we'll invite him to on your podcast, and I'll also talk to Brother Davis to see if we can have Channel ATV feature him. Well, my brother Noah, thank you so much for this privilege and this opportunity to talk to you. I want to give special thanks to Davis Chira and Channel ATV for making this broadcast possible. To our brothers and sisters all over the world, we're grateful for you. We love you, and we want you to know that we are all one family, and we're working together to make sure that we elevate standards of living for our people wherever they are. Brother Noah, thank you, sir, for your time, and may God bless you, and may God give you the wisdom to do what you're given to do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm humbled to just to have this conversation. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.